Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting once again. Every second Monday of the month, we have our meetings in English. Today is August the 11th, so we have our meetings in English. Our meetings always start at 7, and it goes as follows. I start talking something here, then I invite someone to do the prayer. Then I invite someone to read a message. Tonight's going to be Nancy. She'll read a message for us. Then we'll make a comment about the message. Then we will have a talk about one of the chapters or one of the items of a chapter in the Gospel according to Spiritism. And then we have our final prayer. Then after that, we finish. We have our passes, and we all go home a little more relaxed, hopefully, with something useful for our inner improvement, and so on and so forth. So let's do our initial prayer. Welcome again, everyone, the ones who are here, the ones who are online, and let's do our prayer. If we want, we can close our eyes to focus a little more on the words, on the feelings, on the thoughts of our dear Master Jesus, also thinking about God, our Creator, the one that gives us love, that gives us hope, that invites us to His house, to His side, to His bosom, by saying, "Dear Jesus, our Master, our friend, once again we are here gathered together to study your teachings, the teachings that guide us towards self-love, towards the love for one another, and above all, to learn how to love God above everything else. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for your blessings. We thank you for being here with us to help us understand, to help us feel your love for us, so that we, when feeling it and learning from it, we can also learn better how to love one another. May these blessings bless ourselves, bless our families, bless the ones we don't know, bless the ones we cannot see, bless every single spirit. And may this love bless our night and our meeting. So be it. So let's invite Nancy to read a message for us.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are reading the message number 178. The title is The Battle Within, from the book Our Daily Bread. The Chico Xavier was the one who wrote this book, and the spirit was Emmanuel. And it starts saying, since you are going through the same struggle you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. It is in Paul, Philippians 1:30. In his youth, Paul did bear arms against common circumstances in order to consolidate his position and assert himself in the future of the race. He fought to surpass the intelligence of the youth of his time, distancing himself from many colleagues and companions. He argued in court with doctors of law and was victorious. He tried and succeeded in obtaining a most enviable material situation. He fought to prove himself in the highest court of Jerusalem and overcome elderly instructors of the chosen people. He resolved to pursue those who he felt were enemies of the established order and multiplied his adversaries everywhere. He wounded, tormented, and complicated the life of some of his respectable friends, sentenced innocent people to nameless worries, and fought against sinners and saints, the just and the unjust. However, a moment surged in which the Lord beckoned his spirit to another type of battle, the battle within. When the time arrived, Paul of Tarsus became quiet and listened. The sword broke in his hands forever. He no longer has arms to harass, but only to be helpful and to serve. He travels in a modified manner, inversely. Instead of humiliating others, he bows his own neck. He goes through suffering and perfects himself through silence with the same disposition for work that characterized him in his era of blindness. He is stoned, incarcerated, beaten, often misunderstood. However, he proceeds steadfast to the encounter of the divine renovation. If you still have not battled with your inner self, the day will come when you will be called upon to similar service. Pray and be vigilant. Prepare yourself and adapt your heart to humility and patience. Remember, my brother, that not even Paul, who was graced by the personal visit of Jesus, was able to escape. I invited Mackenzie to make some comments about this thing because it talks about the history of Paul of Tarsus, and he is our teacher when we have classes. So Mackenzie will be make some comments. Thank you.
Yes. So I forgot one thing. We are almost at the end of the book. That's our daily bread, the book that Nancy just read from. So usually these books they have 180 messages. So tonight is 178. So we're just like 2 messages to go to finish this book. And I talked about this a few months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago when I was here, and that means that we've been reading this book for about 180 months because we read one message every month. So it's about 180 months. That's a lot of years, right? Because every year has 12 months, right? So 10 years would be 120 messages. So it's more than 10 years. So, and then plus 60, that would be 5 more years. So that's about 15 years. So that's one message every month. That's about 15 years reading this book. And we're going to move on to a different book for hopefully I'm still going to be incarnated. Alive I will be, but hopefully I'll still be incarnated in 15 years when we finish the other one. But yes, as Nancy was saying and reading from the message, and um, I'm going to read just a little the start when he says, Paul says, since you are going through the same struggle you saw I had, and now I hear that I still have, and now hear that I still have. So we are really we are studying, although we are on vacation now for at least September, uh, on studying the book Paul and Stephen on Tuesday nights. And Jusara always comes and studies with us. Whoever wants to come is you're always welcome. We can do it here or we can do it online as well. But yes, when the title says the battle within, so it's the battle that we have, a war, a fight that we have, but not to the outside, not against someone outside, but within ourselves, inside of ourselves, right? With whom? With myself. Because if I'm battling something inside of me, is I'm battling myself to maybe improve on some sort. And while studying and going through the problems that Paul faces when he is growing up in Christ, we see how hard it is for him to overcome his own struggles, his own problems, his own difficulties. And it's not different than what it is with us. And the only other comment that I'm going to make, which I tend to comment quite often, actually, when we are discussing the book, is um, we sometimes, when we want to give an excuse about how hard it is for us to overcome a problem, to overcome a difficulty we have, we come with the excuse of, and then someone tells us, oh, but Jesus tells us to do this, and you see Paul did this or Peter did this, or we use the example of, I don't know, Gandhi or whoever. I mean, a person that was able to accomplish and to change and to make a difference in his life or her life, make a difference in the world. And then we say, oh, but that was Gandhi, oh, but that was Peter, that's not me. And I say, yes, you're right, it's the other person, it's not you. But that doesn't mean that for him or for her was easy as well, because we only see the end, we only see what they accomplished, but we never know how hard it was for them to really go through all that, right? To really stick to the plan, because it's basically just sticking to the plan. And I'm not saying that I can stick to the plan. I'm not saying that I can do it. I'm just saying that we use this excuse of, okay, it was Marcus, it was Lucas, it was whoever. But it doesn't really matter, because they're all human, like us. For some people, it might be easier to do certain things, but not necessarily everything is easier for them. Maybe some stuff for me is easier than for Fabricio, for example, and the other way around, or for Jussara, or for anyone else, right? So certain things are easier for me than are for others, and some things are hard for me, they are easy for other people. So it's not an excuse. The world is full of excuses, full of excuses. We can find any justification for anything. But when we see a result, when we see something that a person or a group of people or was able to accomplish, was able to do, it was because they went through it. Independently of how hard it was for them to go through, they went and they did it. And that's basically what the message is. Paul says, you saw how I was. He's telling his own story to some people. So you know how hard it was for me. And now that you know how hard it was for me, it will be hard for you too. And it's hard for everybody. We just need to kind of stick together and go with the plan and try to do the best that we can. Even if it's struggling, even if it's like on our force, like, no, crawling like a baby, but going through and finally getting to the end, right? And sometimes, I don't know if you're old enough to have seen this, but probably yes, but I don't know if you've seen this before. But there's a scene that I love about an old Olympics, like a lady that was running, I think, the marathon, and she was the last to cross the line, or close to the last to cross the line. And when she got to cross the line, nobody can help her. And um, she is completely gone in a certain way, because she's all like bent and all like just running and not running anymore because she can't run. She's just walking and just like, but she crosses the line. How hard it was for her. And she was not even running to get to the first place, but she wanted to be able to finish the race. It doesn't matter how you finish the race. If your goal is to finish the race, finish the race. She could have given up. I could have given up. You could have given up. She could have given up. And I don't remember her name. I don't remember which Olympics it was. I don't remember who won the Olympics of that specific thing, but I remember her example. See how powerful that is? And she's just a simple, regular woman that decided to run a race. And that stands out for me as an example of, if we want and if we set our minds to it, it doesn't matter how we cross the line. It matters that we cross the line. And that's what Paul is inviting us to do here, is to cross the line. Keep doing it. Keep running. Keep, like Dory from Finding Nemo says, keep swimming, right? Yeah. And that's what we should do. So that's a little bit on our daily bread, 178. Again, as I always say, read the message. It's pretty good. And now we're going and moving on to continue with our study of, this is the Portuguese version, but the covers are basically the same. The Gospel According to Spiritism. We are on chapter 16, and we will talk a little bit about item number 5 from that chapter, which is the parable of the evil rich man. At least that's how it is known in some circles. There are other names to the parable, but this is the parable of the evil rich man. And I'm going to turn the TV on. I'm going to change something there, and I'll be right back. Okay, what I'm going to show here is basically just the text of item number 5. There's no comments, there's no nothing. I'm just, because it's a parable from Jesus, what is going to be written here is basically just the parable itself. It's just the parable. There's nothing else. This is an image that I found that might represent whatever this bad or evil rich man was, which is just an illustration of what it is. But I'm going to read the parable, and then we're going to make some comments on it. Before we start, though, I just want to point out that we are studying chapter 16 of the Gospel According to Spiritism, and we've been doing this for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And this chapter 15 or 16, it's, you cannot serve God and mammon. And from the very first talk about the chapter, uh, which was Flavio, who came here and talked to us, he uh, he highlighted what this word mammon is. Mammon, mammon. And it's a god of the ancient times that represented money, represented wealth, represented the power that money can give us. So that's the title of the chapter of the Gospel according to Spiritism. So what Kardec does here is he wants to talk about being rich. And here, in general terms, it's being rich by really having money, not necessarily in other areas, because we can be rich in many other areas, of course. Rich in wealth, rich in happiness, rich in other stuff. But here he's really talking about richness, about being rich, having money, having goods, right? Having whatever, however you want to call it. Naturally, we can, and that's how we, at least I like to see these chapters, we can interpret and reinterpret to our needs, to what we are going through, to what we are thinking about at that specific moment. So this parable of the evil rich man can be naturally interpreted, seen in many different lights. I'm going to give, I don't know how few or how many interpretations or points of view, but I'm going to touch in a lot of different points, and hopefully some of these points will kind of make way into your brains and stay there, because that's one of the important things about when we are here, is that you don't need to remember everything that is said here, but if something stays there for a little bit, that's what's really important. Either because if that thing stuck to us is because, I don't know, I need it, or because I had a question about it and nobody really ever answered, or because it's like a little bug that's inside of ourselves and it is like bugging us for some reason, and maybe it's a point for me to later on read about it or go after and try to know a little bit more. So hopefully some of this story and of these things that I'm going to say will be important to you, as they are and they were at some point. And while I was reading this today and trying to study from other sources, some stuff that I really never thought about and I really never knew, or if I knew, I had completely forgotten. So this is a very interesting parable. The parable of the evil rich man. Oh, I think I'm going to read the whole thing. It's like five slides. The letters are not too small, so I think we can go through very quickly, and then we can go back and then go after again. So the parable of the evil rich man, and then Jesus is telling these stories to a group of people. And Pharisees are around. Pharisees are Jews of the time. So they are listening to these stories that Jesus is telling. So he says, there was once a rich man who dressed in purple and linen, and who treated himself magnificently every day. There was also a poor man named Lazarus, who lay at his gate, completely covered with sores, and who hoped to mitigate his hunger with the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table. However, no one gave him any food or any crumbs, and the dogs came to lick his sores. It so happened that the poor man died and was taken by the angels to the bosom, to the side of Abraham. The rich man also died and had hell as his grave. While he was in torment, he lifted his eyes on high and saw Abraham far off with Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried out, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send me Lazarus, so that he might wet the tip of his finger in water to bring a little refreshment to my tongue, for I am suffering awful torment in these flames. But Abraham answered him, My son, remember that you already received your riches during your lifetime, and that Lazarus had nothing but ills. That is why he is now being consoled, whereas you are in torment. Moreover, there will forever be a large abyss between you and us, such that those who would like to go from here to there cannot, just as one cannot come here from where you are. And then he finalizes by saying, oh, there's two. The rich man said to him, Then I beg you, Father Abraham, to send him to my father's house, where I have 5 brothers, in order to attest to them about these things, for fear that they too might come to this place of torment. Which Father Abraham says, They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them. No, Father Abraham, said the rich man, but if someone from the dead were to go to them, they would repent. Abraham responded to him, If they do not listen to Moses or the prophets, they will not believe anyone else, even if someone from the dead were to come back to life. Since I'm not going to be talking about this end a lot, I'm just going to start from the end, just to point out some little interesting things here. As Spiritists, when we get a book like this, The Gospel According to Spiritism, or a book like the one Nancy read in the beginning, Our Daily Bread, we open up any pages, any page. We have a specific characteristic of these messages, which we always point out, but it's important for me to point this out again now. We have a little piece that's taken from the Bible, usually from the New Testament, usually from one of the letters of Paul or Peter or John, or from one of the Gospels, or from the Acts of the Apostles, or Luke, or Mark, or so it's one of the pieces from the New Testament. He is saying they have Moses and the prophets. They have something that's written. They have something that's there that they can go to, that they can open, they can read it, they can look at it. If it were today, they would say they have Moses, they have the Old Testament, but they also have the New Testament. In us, we have the messages of Emmanuel, which were from the dead. And he's saying there that even if they do not listen to Moses or the prophet, they will not believe anyone else, even if someone from the dead were to come from life. What is interesting that I find it there is that if we try to bring this message to today, at that time, there was only Moses and the prophets. And for us, what do we have? We have Moses, we have the prophets, we have Jesus, we have any other great message that we have around the world. And if we are Spiritists, we have messages even from the ones who came from the dead to tell us. So this rich man is on the other side, died, and he's begging Abraham to send people down to try to advise us who are incarnated to say, hey, I did such a terrible thing with my life, but I don't want my brothers and my sisters to go through the same kind of situation that I am here right now. So send other people to send new messages. And what does Abraham say? I mean, people are people. People are people. They already have the message. They already have whatever they need to grow. But they send someone else to raise from the dead. It will be like that video clip from Thriller, from Michael Jackson, right? People raising from the dead. And then instead of believing, you're going to run from it because we don't do it. That's, to me, that's basically what he is saying there. We already have what we need, but we always want more, as if we need to give in another excuse for not doing it. And then one of the excuses is, oh, just like I said in the beginning, oh, but that was Paul, that was Peter, that was Mark, that was Luke, that was Gandhi, that was Mother Teresa, that was... It's never us, because we want to give up, then we give any excuse that we want. And that's what this rich man is doing it. One thing that I always say as well, and I apologize if you've listened it before and I keep repeating it, is that when we are reading something, especially if we are reading a text that's been around for this amount of time and it's still being studied to this day, we have to look at those texts as if we are there, as if we are those people that are being mentioned, and put ourselves in the places of those people, put ourselves in the shoes of those, so that we can try to understand, what does that mean to me? Because that's the most important message. It's not the message itself, but what does it mean to me? What does it really mean to me? And I have to try to make like a sense of it, remove it from where it is, or put myself into where it is, so that I can see, so what if I am one of the 5 brothers? That's what it says here, right? I have, well, in the previous one, he says that he has 5 brothers. And what if I am one of the 5 brothers? What will I be doing after my rich brother died? I have the message just like he had, and he didn't do it. What will I do? What if I am listening to this talk today? What does it have to do with me that I'm speaking? So how important it is this talk for me? Not for you. I'm talking about myself and thinking about for myself. What is this talk important for in my case? How much do I have to listen to that message? But being you, how much? So when Abraham says, look, they have the book, they have the message, they have everything you had. So am I going to send another one? And what will they do with that other message? And now, again, it's for us. We come here to continue, or we go to a church, or we go to a temple. It doesn't matter. Not us. Another person goes, and we hear this message, and we hear it again, and we hear it again. How many times do I have to hear the same thing? And what will it take for me to really understand it? But not only to understand it, but to practice it, to really put it in action. And that's basically what he finalizes it with it here. I mean, you had your whole life he says. You had your whole life. You had Abraham. You had the prophets. You had Moses. Why? Why do we need more? I think that's a fair question for ourselves, not for why do we need more? Maybe because we didn't understand it yet. Maybe because, and then we can come up with any response, with any answer to that question. But being sincere with ourselves, we have to realize that, and I'm going to ask a question. Of course, it's a rhetorical question. We have to think about it. But maybe isn't that why we suffer? Because we have the message. We know how to do. We know what we need to do. And we don't do it. Isn't it a good reason for us to have to go through something to really understand it? I have a friend that over the weekend, right? She comes and she says, yeah, my husband, he had he had to go and do something, and he couldn't do it. And I said, oh, and she says, I had to go and do it in his place. And she says, and I asked, oh, is he better? Oh no, he is much better now, and he's improving. He's gonna be okay. And then she looks at me and she says, oh, it's the body, when you don't take care of yourself, the body will come to you and say, you need to stop. And then you're going to suffer because you didn't hear your body. You didn't hear what your body was saying. And then your body will shut down. Something will happen to you. And then now you're going to have to do it. But if I had listened before, if I had heard what the body, what medicine, what, good behavior and good, take good care of your own body, the body wouldn't have the need to say stop. And then your back wouldn't have hurt or whatever it is. So here comes the question again. Isn't it maybe why we suffer? Because we don't do it. We don't do what we need to do. Maybe it's why. Because if I cannot help myself and not do what I need to not do, then the body will say, okay, so now you'll be forced to do it, because that's how it is. Spiritually speaking, I can see it working exactly the same way. So that's basically the end here. I could talk more about this, but I want to go back to the beginning and talk about a few other things. So the story is, if you understood it, but if not, I'm going to make a summary. There's a rich man, but he's not just any rich man. He is a very rich, very wealthy man. They say that he's dressed in purple. I didn't go after to see what means to dress in purple, but there are some colors that are very, very hard to make. Very, very hard to make. And they're more expensive than other stuff. So I am assuming that this purple here is because it was hard to make. So he had this purple thing, and he dressed in linen, which was a very expensive material to be dressed in. And he treated himself magnificently, top of the line. But not only here and there, every day. That's what it says, every day. So he was one of those guys those people that really have it. It's not, you're not joking around with money. He really has it. In contrast to this, there was a poor man, which was at his gate, at his front door, at the front door of his property, of his house, or wherever he lived, hungry and covered with sores. So he had lots of problems in his his body. And he hoped to mitigate his hunger, meaning to have something come from them to so that he was not hungry anymore, so that he was satisfied. He could, survive better. But he doesn't say that he needed a bread. He didn't say that he needed a big plate. He doesn't say that he needed like thousands of pounds of food. No, the crumbs. Crumbs are, I'm eating the bread and then little pieces of bread fall on the ground. That's what he says that he needed. Jesus says that he needed. He would be satisfied if he received only crumbs, only little pieces. He's not like hoping, and he doesn't want to get a lot of stuff. He just wants whatever is he's able to satisfy his hunger. But he says, however, no one gave him any. He says, no one. Usually these things only happen if no one is giving anybody. It's because the owner of the house is saying to everybody, don't give it. Otherwise, if he says, no, I don't care, people will go and give it, right? Because if he doesn't care, but if he's not receiving anything, it means that everybody that's under the same household is probably being told, don't give it. The only things that give him something are the dogs. And this is, if you compare what a rich man is giving this poor guy, nothing, and what are the dogs doing? They are licking his sores. And dogs and cats, what do they do when they have sores in their legs? They lick, because they know that they will clean it, and they know that they will make the bacteria go better. And whatever there is in their tongue helps with the cleaning, and it's antiseptic. So even the dogs, Jesus is saying, is giving more to this poor guy than the rich guy. Can you imagine how this man was? And here I have to make a point, because it's not because he is rich. And I think you can see that. It's not because he is rich. Last month when we were here, we were talking about Zacchaeus that went to Jesus's house, and he was rich and people saw him as a bad person and so on. But then when Jesus enters his house, he says, whoever I took money from, I'm going to give money to them. I'm going to give them back 4 times what I took from them. And then I'm going to give to the poor. So it's not about having money. It's not about being rich. It's about not having compassion. It's about not having whatever you have and being able to share or to help other people, to feel for other people. Not even like the dogs. So it is, to me, it is very, very powerful, this image that we have this rich guy that has everything that he can have. He has food. He has best clothing. He treats himself the best way he can. But it is as if he really wants it. He wants everything only for himself. And that's what, if not selfishness, in pure selfishness. So that's what Jesus is pointing out here. He's not pointing out that the guy is rich. He's making a huge comparison with the dogs that were there and helping the guy. And a human being is not taking care of another human being. And it is not as if the guy was far away. He was not even seeing it. He was seeing him outside. Even if he was not seen, he knows about him because he will have to know it. One other thing that's very interesting here in this parable is that I think Jesus told about, I don't know, 40, around 40 parables. I don't know the exact number, but about 40 parables. This is the only parable that Jesus adds a name to a character. We don't know the name of the rich man, but we know the name of the dog. It could be Toto, right? It could be Ralph. We don't know the name of the dog, but we know the name of the poor man. And the name of the poor man, it can mean two things in the original. I mean, if we go to Portuguese, or then we can have other meanings. But the original meaning of the word in Hebrew at the time, which is they say it's Eleazar, which we also have in Portuguese as Eleazar. But it's the same, and then it was translated into Greek to be called Lazarus. It can have two meanings. It means God has helped, or it means God's help, the help of God, which is similar. They are similar meanings, but they are not exactly the same thing. And I'm still like processing this information as I'm reading and rereading this story. Why does Jesus give this character a name? And this is something for us to maybe research if we're curious enough, to think about it, to try to make sense of it. Because it is very significant that a teacher, right, like Jesus, is telling a story to a group of people, and he gives one character in a story that nobody knows that it's a parable. Like he says, it's a parable. It's not a true story. It's a story to make a point. But he uses a name of a person, and a name of a person that exists is a real name. It's a name of people. But why does in it, of course, meaning something? It has to mean something within the story, and it's God's help, or God has helped. So it is very saying that this poor man has this name that says God has helped. Has helped who? Has helped him? Has helped the rich man? Has helped him when he was dead? Has helped him when he was alive? What is this God's help that has to be with the whole story? Is God helping him all the time? With whom? He was poor. He has nothing. He is full of diseases. He has sores in his whole body. The dogs are licking him to make him better. How can God be helping? But when he dies, which is the next part, it so happened that the poor man died and was taken by the angels to the bosom of Abraham, to the side of Abraham. This bosom is the idea of being right with Abraham, as if he's like together, joined, or in a I don't know, in a party, or enjoying Abraham's presence, like chatting, like talking. Is part of Abraham's family. So this bosom is meaning you're together, you're part of the family, right? The rich man also died and had hell as his grave. So he died, and it's not that he went to hell. Let's just stop a little bit, go back in time, and say what we think of hell today has nothing to do with what they thought of what hell was. So our images of hell are completely different than, so it's kind of hard to translate it because, I mean, with thousands of years of Christianity teaching us about Satan, about tridents, about fire, about a lot of stuff that are eternal, that we will suffer forever, it goes into our minds. And then all of a sudden we kind of lose whatever it was. But we're going to see that, and we already saw it, that the rich man asks Abraham to send someone down back to earth to talk to them. So it means that you can come back, right? Jesus is telling us there's a way to do it. And they were not like fighting this, because if you're telling a story like this and you're like against everything, everybody's going to like be crazy. And so you're insane. No, it was common knowledge that you could come and go, that you could. So hell is more a state of mind, that where you are. And what is funny is he says, Father Abraham, he is here in hell suffering, right? But he can see Abraham and he can see Lazarus. So it's like as if they're together in the same place, but he is in hell at the same time. It's not a physical place. It's my mind. It's who I am. I'm suffering because of what I did. I'm suffering because I am here, and say, I am here. I am from the northeastern part of Brazil, right? I am from the corner of Brazil. The lowest temperature I ever got where I was born was 20 degrees, which is about 70 something. That was the lowest I ever saw. Basically up to when I was 30 years old. So I'm at my house here, right? I'm comfortable. But if we bring an Eskimo and put him here, he will be dying because he lived his whole life in temperatures that are completely insanely cold. So if it raises a little bit for him, it will be crazy. And it will be hell for him and kind of a paradise for me. So we are at the same physical place. But if you hate cold and if you love warmth, one can be in hell, the other one can be in paradise, being at the same location. And this is physically speaking. Now imagine that we are in a relationship, we are in a mental space where this situation we are living is completely terrible for me, but it's good for you. So I'm going to be fine and you're going to be terrible. It doesn't matter where we are, because mentally we're going to be in completely different spaces. That's how I see this here. Although there's a kind of a physical description, but it's a physical description that we can clearly see that it can be, I mean, how can Abraham be seen from hell and Lazarus as well? So it's a torment on the inside. So while he was in torment, he lifted his eyes on high and saw Abraham far off with Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried out, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send me Lazarus. Now let's stop. Lazarus is God's help, right? So what is he saying here? Is he saying for him to send Lazarus physically? Or is he asking him to send a help from God? Or both, if Lazarus represents this. So you see how we can go deeper and deeper and then trying to excavate more and more and really get meanings and more meanings from like small passages, so that he might wet the tip of my finger, of his finger. What was Lazarus doing in the beginning? He said that I would be hopeful if I could eat crumbs, which are what? Small pieces of food. Now he's starting to understand what Lazarus was doing.
It's the first time that he pronounced his name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the first time. That's a very good point, Josara. That's the first time he's saying Lazarus' name, so that he might wet the tip of his finger in water, just wet a little bit, and bring a little refreshment to my tongue, which probably was not even able to pronounce Lazarus before, right? It's so dry that couldn't even speak. So, for I am suffering awful torment in these flames. What flames? And how doesn't he die? I mean, so he's warm. So he, it's an image that we're trying to understand. Now, you are in a desert, right? You live in a desert. You're hot. You're very hot. It's not as discomfortable, but you don't know what cold is, basically, there. I mean, cold in terms of really deep cold. It gets cold at night, but flames get even more and more and more. So it's, yeah, go ahead, Josiah.
Just a curiosity. In Portuguese, we have a word which is lazarino.
Yep.
I think it comes from this.
It comes from this story. Yep.
It means a person who has a lot of swords.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What Josara is saying is, just so that everybody hears if they are online, is that the word in Portuguese, we have a word that's very similar to Lazarus called lazarento. And it comes from this story, and that is totally true, because the word means a person who is ill and has a lot of sores in his arms, in his whole body. When we refer to someone as lazarento, usually it's a very derogative term to not even people. I mean, you can say of a dog, of an animal, right? Because the person, the animal or the person is full of exterior diseases at a minimum. And sometimes you can even refer to people with being of a leper, which usually you call the person having the Hansen disease, right? Being so lazarento. So yeah, so he says, "Hey, look, I am here. I'm suffering. I'm this terrible heat, and I'm so thirsty, and I don't even want food. I just want a little bit of water so that I can." So he's starting to understand. But to start to understand doesn't mean that you already did it. And you had your whole life doing the other way around. So it will take some time for you to purge this other side. And then so that we can get to that to this part and we get to the end. It says, Abraham answers him, "My son, remember that you already received your riches. You already received it. You already got whatever you want now. You already had for a bunch of years. And Lazarus had nothing but ills, but diseases. That's why he is now being consoled, whereas you are in torment." So this is how Abraham says, right? But is it really just because he had it and Lazarus didn't have it? When we read the story, it's not just because he had it. And it's not just because Lazarus didn't have it. It's because of how they used whatever they had it. And it's also not just because you believe or you don't believe in something. Because both of these two guys, Lazarus and the rich man, we can clearly see that they are Jews. They know the law. They know the prophets. So it's not just because you believe in the law. It's not just because you know the law. Therefore, to my understanding, what Jesus is saying here is it doesn't cover you if you say you believe in God. It doesn't cover you if you go to the church. if you go to the temple. It doesn't cover you because you say, oh, I believe, and nowadays we do the same, right? Oh, I go to the Spiritist Center, so I'm saved. I'll take my passes, I'm saved. I'm going to see Nancy talk, I'm going to be saved. I'm going to say that I believe in Jesus, and then I'm saved. This teaching here shows exactly the other way around. That it doesn't matter if I'm a Jew. It doesn't matter if I know who Abraham is. It doesn't matter if I know who Jesus is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I have faith in Jesus, if I don't do anything. Because if I really have faith, it will save me. But why will it save me if I have faith? Because when he says, love one another, what will I do? Love. It's not just because I believe in Jesus that I'm saved. It's because I learned to love other person. That's it. Not because I believe, not because I am a Christian. So that's where it is, when we get a teaching like this, it goes so many places. It's so deep, and we can spend hours. And when I say hours, I mean literally, because we could stop at almost every word, not every word, but every little sentence, and go deeper, go beyond it, go further down to study whatever it was in the past. Why does he use the word bosom, for example? Why does he use this word bosom? Why? There are other places where he uses the word, and maybe there are connections because he uses only specifically. Like I said, why does he say Lazarus? Why does he use the word, the name of this character, Lazarus? I mean, one of the most famous parables, the parable of the Good Samaritan. Who is the Good Samaritan? It's on purpose that there's no name for that guy, because if you put a name to him, it will like almost limit him. But it's to be the one who receives. Who is the one who receives? Anyone. Who is the one that's coming? Who is the one that was attacked? Who is the one that gives? It doesn't matter. But here he uses it very specifically, a name that means God's help, or God has helped. Why is he doing that? Why is Jesus asking us to think about, okay, Lazarus is the poor guy. Maybe he's also saying, okay, remember that even if you're poor, you're being helped all the time. You maybe just have to understand what it is. And maybe in this passage, he has this name to show that he understood God's help, even when he doesn't have anything. Because he was saved. But was he saved just because he was poor? No, because he could be poor and he could be like saying something bad to the rich guy, and that would mean that he is probably not understanding the message as well as the rich guy was not understanding. So it's not about being rich or being poor, although it is put there in that sense. Maybe it's about being rich and poor in other senses. Maybe it's about being rich in humility and poor in lack of compassion. The rich guy has a lot of money, zero compassion. The poor guy has zero money, is ill, is sick, is almost dying, being helped by dogs only. But he accepts what he lives, how he lives. He doesn't judge. He doesn't scream. He doesn't complain about other people. He doesn't put other people down. He's living and accepting his situation and doing the best that he can. Maybe that's a teaching for us. Maybe everything is a teaching for us. What are we getting rich at? How much are we poor? And how am I using my richness or my poorness? How am I using it? And what am I becoming rich with? What am I doing to become richer in terms of spirituality? To maybe one day when I die, maybe one day when I'm on the other side, I will be able to pray to Abraham or to Jesus or to whoever and say, come help me, please. And like Andre Luis does, after 8 years of forgetting how to pray, and then he starts to pray, and then he prays because he remembers his mother who taught him how to pray. He prays once, or at least prays very deeply from his heart, and then all of a sudden someone comes and helps him. Because it can take time. It can take time for us to get there. But we will not be at a terrible place like the rich man if we don't do like the rich man. If we do it a little bit better, we will be much better after we do it. We could go on and on. We could talk more about this this parable, which is very interesting. But I recommend you reading, maybe listening to some other people talking about it. There's a lot of stuff that Jesus wanted us to think about this. Hopefully, what we take from there is what I just said, that maybe we learn how to get rich in other ways, and it's not bad at all to be rich and have money as well. But you just have to balance. Just need to learn how to balance both sides. Having said that, I'd like to thank you for being there, for staying, for sticking to us. Just going to remind everyone of our meetings, Saturdays and Sundays. We have our meetings at 7 p.m. We have our study of the book Paul and Stephen, like Nancy said in the beginning. I spoke about a little bit here on Tuesday nights, but we are on vacation for this month of August, and maybe the first or second week of September we'll be back. We're still deciding what we're going to do, but we're gonna see when it is. But you can always ask me. Can when I come here at least once a month. Although you're probably sick and tired of me because I've been coming here like every week for the past like month. So. And remind everyone that two more things. Think about the gospel at home, or the God at home, which is a moment where we take to sit down and read a book, get a little book, maybe on our daily bread, maybe open up the gospel according to Spiritism, read a message and make some comments, and try to make the comments about me, not about who is sitting with me, because it's so easy sometimes that we read this and then we see the problem that my husband has, that my wife has, and then we make a comment on the other. No, it's for us. It's not for the other. If the other one perceives it, notes it, it's theirs, but not right. So the gospel according to Spiritism, it's for us to really come together and invite the good spirits to be with us. And also, Cantinho has a telephone number. It's been working for a little while, but we have an issue with the number, so we had to change the number. If you don't have it, it's just for WhatsApp. We cannot receive any calls there. And it's just for regular messages to let people know of what's happening. And we're going to have a yard sale. You're seeing the stuff there. We're preparing now in September. We're going to have the yard sale. So we will send the date. We will send, information. So if you don't have it, we have the number here. But if you want it, just come and ask. We can give the number, and you receive a message like once a week. It's not those groups that we receive like 10,000s of messages and people get sick and tired of it. No, it's like once or twice a week we get a message, and that's it. And there's no talk back. It's just a group for us to receive information. So it is a good way to know what's happening at Cantinho. This weekend, we're going to have a talk from Gislaine, a friend of ours. She's going to talk about family on Saturday night. If you're invited to come, if you can. And I think that's it for tonight. Are we done with this initial part? We're going to have the passes after that. So I'm going to do the final prayer, and so that we can finish online as well. Thank you for the ones who are watching. We'll watch in the future, and we'll be back next week with the regular programming in Portuguese. So with this, we'd